So you're saying it'd be okay to kill a 2-year-old?
I wouldn't say kill them. I would say, peacefully send them to heaven, with the morphine and, but
Right,
if they're not
but
going to have a good,
no, but Alex, so you're talking about they're alive and we make them dead. What's that called?
Hi, Alex. You're on the air. Why are you pro-choice?
Well, I think it's a good avenue to take for women who have no other options to go through. Because I think something that people don't talk about in the argument is the fact that it costs, a good few $1,000s to have a child. Even if you put it up for adoption, you still have to pay the hospital, several $1,000s just to have the child, as opposed to, a smaller fee for the abortion. I think it would be, a much easier option on a family who probably couldn't afford to raise the child themselves.
Okay, so Alex, your defense of legal abortion is you're saying that abortion ought to be legal because choosing to not abortion entails financial costs, like paying to place a child for, taking care of a child, raising them, even placing them for adoption. There are some costs that are involved. Though I would say the costs involved for placing a child for adoption are incurred primarily, if not absolutely, by the couple who is adopting the child, not the birth mother who is placing the child. But even if you were correct, I don't think that works with abortion. What's hard for me is because what I hear with the argument, because when you say things like a woman shouldn't be forced to have a child, I agree with that. I agree that nobody should be forced to become pregnant. Nobody should be raped. Because for me, the phrase have a child refers to conception. But my thing is, if you are pregnant, you already have a child. So you can't say, well, I'm allowed to end my child's life because if I were to let this child continue living, it would cost me money. I would say parents have an obligation to take care of their children and not directly end their lives. So that's the crux for me, which is hard. I agree with you. No one should be forced to become pregnant. But just as you can't kill a 2-year-old just because you don't want to go through everything involved with placing them for adoption or raising them, I don't think you should do the same to an unborn child. They're just younger and smaller, and we should treat them the same. Does that make sense? Do you see where I'm at least coming from?
I see your reasoning. What do you say to the crackhead who couldn't raise a child and probably doesn't know how to put a child up for adoption, and would probably, give the child some brain damage and it wouldn't be able to live a full life anyway? What would you say to that?
Well, Alex, let me respond to that hypothetical with another one. I grew up in the Southwest, and there's a lot of meth labs, stuff like that. And I've heard stories of parents being arrested who run meth labs who have kids there, like toddlers, that are already addicted to methamphetamines or already been poisoned by it. So, let's take your person who is addicted to crack cocaine or a meth addict. What if they had a toddler? And imagine that toddler's already addicted to crack cocaine. The toddler's already addicted to meth. The toddler's not going to get adopted. They're going to be in community foster care for years and years and years till they go out on the streets and probably end up doing drugs. And I know this will sound like a ridiculous proposal, but just humor me here. What do you think if people said, look, this toddler, this 2-year-old child of this crack addict or this meth head, this 2-year-old child's got no future ahead of him. Maybe we should just pump him full of morphine, let him die, send him to God. That's that. Do you think it'd be wrong to kill a 2-year-old child of a crack addict or a meth head for that reason?
Well, I think to send them to heaven would be a good thing, if they're not going to have a good time here on earth.
Alex, let's rewind a bit. So you're saying it'd be okay to kill a 2-year-old who is in an abusive situation?
I wouldn't say kill them. I would say, peacefully send them to heaven, with the morphine and, make it peaceful for them. But
right,
if they're not going to have a good,
No, but Alex, so let me hear what you just said. So if you're talking about they're alive and we make them dead, what's that called?
Well, that's called murder. But I wouldn't be murdering them. It would be sending them to heaven into the afterlife, where they would be, received by God and, forgiven for their sin.
Okay,
and that would be a much better thing instead.
Well,
but the way they get there is you have to murder them first. I mean, that seems pretty clear. You can't send a person to heaven without murdering them.
Alex, would you agree we shouldn't kill born people to send them to heaven. I think you agree, right? Like people like you or me?
Sure.
Okay.
But I mean, they would still, go to heaven, and their life in heaven would be eternal and, far better than their life on
Well,
earth.
let me give you an example. I mean, Cy Kellett here is a super holy guy. I'm sure if somebody walked in and killed him, he would probably go to heaven. Cy is my co-host here, sitting right next to me.
Right. Straight there.
Cy would probably go straight there. He's a super holy guy.
No problem.
But it'd be wrong for someone to kill Cy Kellett, right?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
Yeah. So I guess what I would say there, and we'll have to move on here, Alex. Just as it'd be wrong to kill Cy or me or a 2-year-old, we get into a really, really, really dangerous situation when we say it's okay to kill people if they're suffering or they're having a difficult life. Because then when that's the case, there's nowhere to stop on that slippery slope. That was the mentality behind the Nazi Holocaust. Started that way with the euthanization and killing of disabled people. Other Holocausts or brutalities throughout history have started with, well, we think it's okay to kill people if. When you start with that mindset, and you see, it just doesn't stay with abortion. That's why when I talk to people about this who bring up these pragmatic arguments for abortion, such as children who are in abusive situations, the logic naturally flows to the born. And so you either have to honestly accept it or come up with ad hoc rationale to partition off born children from unborn children of this regard. My response is to say we ought to treat them equally.
I realize there are callers on the line. I just wanted to engage in that conversation a little bit for Alex's benefit, because Alex, we appreciate the call, even though we disagree with about sending little babies to heaven with morphine. We do appreciate the call. And
we are against injecting kids with poison and murdering them, as I think most of our callers also are.
But that doesn't mean
it's all how you describe it. It's all it's all about the language we've seen.
I mean, I don't want to pick on our last caller, but it does seem to me eliding certain basic moral facts to say, well, we're not murdering the child, we're just sending the child to heaven. It's just like we're glossing over an important step here. Like I always felt like that was the case in the embryonic research debate, was like, we're going to use these cells. Well, yeah, but you're using the cells of what? Well, of a human embryo. Well, how are you getting those cells? We're just gathering the cell. Well, no, you're not saying the thing that you're doing.
Right.
You have to kill the embryonic human being before you can use the cells. Like you have to say, and not saying one of the steps is.
This is what we call double speak. It's derived from Newspeak of 1980. George Orwell's book 1984 is a perfect example of this. That notice what our previous caller had to do, and other callers do, and other people do when they defend legal abortion, is they have to twist the English language into such pretzels that you have to send the dictionary to a chiropractor, that it's completely just bent out of shape of what it means in order to get it to sound right. Orwell, he wrote a article about this a long time ago, and in it he was chastising Western journalists for using these kinds of euphemisms to cover up what the Soviet Union was doing. Because a lot of Western journalists were totally infatuated with Soviet-style communism, especially in the 1930s through the 1950s, before the system really started collapsing. Thought, this is great, we have to really support this. And they glossed over the gross human rights abuses. This is what Orwell wrote. George Orwell, author of 1984. Millions of peasants are robbed of their farms and sent trudging along the roads with no more than they can carry. This is called transfer of population or rectification of frontiers. People are imprisoned for years without trial or shot in the back of the neck or sent to die of scurvy in Arctic lumber camps. This is called elimination of unreliable elements. Such phraseology is needed if one wants to name things without calling up mental pictures of them. So that is what happens with abortion here, that even people don't want to say, well, it's not killing, it's quote unquote sending to heaven, which in the case of a baptized 2-year-old child, yes, they would be going to heaven. That is true, but they would
be utterly deprived of their life,
of the life
that God intended for them.
Yeah, and I'm sure that child would mourn the sin you had committed to send them to heaven. That our life is a gift from God, and we do not have. He is the one who has authority over human life. We don't.
I am pro-choice. I used to be pro-life, but I am pro-choice economically. If a woman cannot afford it, This is my main reason. All right, if she cannot afford to raise a child, deliver a child, raise a child, take care of it all the way up till it's 18, and I'm talking medical expenses too. Okay, then there's no reason why she can't have an abortion. There's no reason why she shouldn't have that option. And if the church does not support universal health care or Medicare for all, what business does the church have getting involved if they're not going to help, even by, say, voting for these options or voting to fund a child? It takes a village to raise a child. Am I wrong?
It takes parents to raise a child, John. And of course, parents have to work. They have to interact with other people in society. But I would say that you and I can agree that parents have moral duties towards their children. And so sometimes parents need help to carry out those duties. Like if a father wants to provide for his children, he has to go out into the village and get a job and work. You know, it's hard to just do it on your own. But I think that while parents do need help from the community to raise their children, we can expect mothers and fathers to not kill their children. They don't need our help to not kill their children. They just shouldn't kill their children. Does that sound fair?
Oh, it would be fair. It would be fair if we lived in a fair society, a fair world, if people actually cared, if Catholics could get out and vote and say, we want babies to survive, we want them to live, so we're going to provide health care for children all the way up till they're 18 or whatever. That would sound decent, but I still am not going to agree with you because
Okay.
it is a woman's choice.
Well, John, let me ask you this. John, let me ask you this question. Let's say a woman loses her job and she has a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old, loses her health care benefits, loses her job, and she's having trouble caring for this 2-year-old, 4-year-old, and 6-year-old, and the 2-year-old's just frankly getting on her nerves. Should she be allowed to kill her 2-year-old? Because you know what? We don't have health care, Medicare for all. So should she be allowed to kill a 2-year-old that she can't care for?
No. And I see where you're going with this. But should the Pope get up and say, Catholics, we need to do something about this. Let's vote for universal health care. Let's vote for Medicare for all. Let's take care of society. Let's see the abortion rate
I
drop.
think he does, actually.
John,
I think the Pope we have now does that.
He probably, no. John, my question is, so we agree it should be illegal to kill a 2-year-old?
I see where you're going with this.
Well, just it's a yes or no question.
I'm not all about. There's no. No. Look, if the child or the fetus is connected to the woman's body, it is up to her. Okay, it's up to her. It's her choice.
So actually then, John, let me ask you this question. Let's say, because you're talking about economics to justify this. Let's say a woman is super wealthy, like Kim Kardashian or something. She's got millions of dollars. Can easily take care of a child. She's got millions of dollars. Should she be allowed to have an abortion if she wants one?
I would imagine it's still her choice. It's still her choice.
So the whole Medicare for all thing, that's just a red herring. That's just to distract from the issue. You think abortion should be legal for any reason whatsoever.
Is you look at the reality of the situation, what rich woman wouldn't want to keep her child? Okay, there's a lot of poor women out there, single young women.
Maybe they don't want any more children. They don't want any more children. So let me ask you this to make sure we get your position right. Is there any kind of abortion you think should be illegal?
Look, if someone goes up and assaults a pregnant woman with a baseball bat and she has a miscarriage, I don't know. You want to call that abortion? We can call that abortion. I guess that should be illegal. That's not really her choice, is it?
Okay, so if someone kills a wanted baby, that's murder. But if it's an unwanted baby, it's okay. So your position is whether it's wrong to kill someone depends on whether they're wanted by others.
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. You're kind of going into a gray area here. There are no unwanted babies. I wouldn't call them unwanted. Every child is wanted, but the reality is you got to face economic choices in today's world. And if this is what I'm trying to tell you, if Catholics really want the abortion rate to drop, you get out and you vote for something along those lines, health care for children all the way up to 18.
Do you, John, let me ask you a question. Do you want abortion rates to drop?
At this point, I'm so frustrated with the Catholic Church and everything that you guys preach and your hypocrisy that I could really care less. But I thought I would just voice my opinion on your radio show today. So thank you for
No, John, don't hang up. I just have one. No, John, please. Okay.
No, he's still there. He didn't go.
Okay, John, why are you so mad at the church?
Mad at the church? I think I said disappointed.
Okay,
disappointed in the church.
What are you disappointed with?
Do I really need to go into this? Do you really want me to go into this on your show? I think we could have just called it good right where I was at. I mean, there are plenty of reasons why people should be mad or disappointed or whatever with the church. Whatever you want, however you want to phrase it.
John, I don't want disappointment and anger to weigh your heart down. You seem like a good person. I don't, and you know what? I guess we do have to go to a break here soon. But here's the thing: it's okay for you to feel angry about things, and it's okay to feel frustrated about injustices. And I would encourage you to seek out what's good. I would tell you abortion is not good. We shouldn't seek that as a solution to anything. But I and everyone else here at Catholic Answers and the people who are listening, thousands of people, I'll ask them right now to pray for you. Please pray for John and Lincoln. His heart is, he seems, there's disappointment in there towards the church. I'll tell you what, John, I'm disappointed at the church right now. I'm disappointed by a lot of things. I'm disappointed by clerics. It seemed like it's a day job they're punching into. I'm disappointed by bishops, some bishops who are total cowards, and I feel like they need to step up. It disappoints me and it makes me angry. But I will tell you this, John, I miss receiving Jesus on that altar. Now, I'm not leaving until I get to receive him again. Because he's God and he made this church and he made you and me for eternal life. And so I might be mad, but I'm never going to let that anger keep me away from Jesus. And I'm not going to let it keep me away from his church, even when there are people in the church that make me mad. Because if I was objective, I would see I am probably one of those people who make other people in the church mad. I know I do. I know I make people mad online all the time. So yeah, just John, I hope you're on the line. I hope you can still be with us. If you leave your email address, I'll send you a copy of my book, Why We're Catholic. And I'll pray for you. I hope our listeners pray for you. And something for you to think about, that ultimately what the main point here is: God exists. He loves you. He loves me. He made us. He made every baby in the womb. And he wants all of us to get to heaven and be with him. And I think we can work together towards a goal like that. So if you're on the line, give our call screen or your email. I'll send you a free copy of my book, Why We're Catholic. Otherwise, I'll ask our listeners to pray for you. So you don't have to have so you can at least have a neutral attitude towards the church and not be saddled with anger and disappointment or anything like that. So I'm grateful you called in, and stay on the line. And if you give us your email address, I'll send you a copy of Why We're Catholic. So thanks.
Yeah, just I think abortion is part of God's plan to help the overpopulation problem.
Okay, well, I guess there's three elements there, Randy. One, whether we have a problem with overpopulation. Two, whether abortion is ever okay as a solution to overpopulation. And three, whether it's part of God's plan. Why do you think it's God's plan to overpopulation? How do you come to that conclusion?
Well, the world's population has gone from just under 2 billion to 7.5 in just over 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's got to be part of his plan.
Well, how do you know it's part of his plan and not just part of your plan and what people like you think? How do you know God wants this?
Well, I really don't know, because I don't know. I don't think there's a God anyways there, so I just kind of threw that in. But,
can't quite be his plan if he's not there, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so it's your plan. All right. This is your plan, Randy. You think we need abortion to deal with overpopulation. Well, I guess here's my question then for you. So you think abortion will decrease overpopulation. Here's my hypothetical. Let's say not enough women choose to have abortions. Would you be okay forcing women to have abortions and forcing women to use birth control so that the planet doesn't get overpopulated?
I think it should be a woman's choice there, yeah.
But what about overpopulation? So you would let people not have abortions. You'd be okay with that even if the world got overpopulated?
Well, I think the natural course, women will have abortions or contraception there. Like say the world's population has doubled in the last 60 years with abortion and contraception.
Right. So, but if people,
thank goodness that women have had access.
But Randy, abortion's been legal all through that time, yet population levels still keep increasing. So my point is, so you agree that it's wrong to force people to have abortions even if the world's overpopulated?
Well, sure.
Okay, so and would you say it's wrong to do that because it violates their rights?
Well, I think as a human species, we're going to be careful with the finite resources that the world has.
Right, but does forcing a woman to have an abortion violate her rights?
No.
It does not? Wait.
No.
So it's okay to force a woman to have an abortion?
Well, again, she's got to figure that out for herself. But
Randy, let's be.
Already has.
I want to be very clear. Is it wrong to force a woman to have an abortion?
No.
Wow.
Randy, do you call yourself pro-choice?
Sure.
So you are pro-choice, but it's not wrong to force someone to have an abortion. You don't see the massive contradiction there?
No, because the way you're putting it there, it sounds like that. But again, I said that a woman, it should be a woman's choice.
Okay, so if you're Randy, you're contradicting yourself here. You say it should be a woman's choice. That would follow that you can't force her to do it.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wow. I feel relieved.
Well,
right
hopefully, let's just keep going. So let's try that again then. You should not force a woman to have an abortion. Is that your position?
But she should have a right to have an abortion.
Right, but you shouldn't force her to do it.
Sure.
Okay, good. So here's the thing. Here's my argument then. If you can't violate a woman's rights to reduce overpopulation, if you can't force a woman to have an abortion, then you shouldn't force a child to be aborted for the same reason. That would be my argument.
Okay. Again, that's your prerogative. Yeah.
All right. Do you think? Well, I guess I'll put it this way, Randy, very bluntly. Do you think it's okay to kill children if there are too many children in the world?
But we're not talking about children. We're talking about having an abortion.
What is abortion?
Well, I'm just saying, we're talking about abortion, not killing a child.
Randy, what is abortion?
It's getting rid of a fetus.
What is a fetus?
It's a preborn human.
So it's a very young human.
But it's not, it can't survive on its own, so it's not a human in the full sense of the term there, yeah.
So you're saying that because a human being is very, very dependent on his mother or her mother, it's okay to kill that human being just because they're really dependent on mom?
He hung up on us. Thanks, Randy. I got to say, if I may, you do a fine job, Trent, and a lot of times that involves accepting certain premises that the person gives you and say, okay, we'll follow on that premise. But the premise that the world is overpopulated with humans or ever has been overpopulated with humans
that's false.
Is a false
Yes,
premise.
that's false.
And so, this is a pet peeve of my own, and so I'm inflicting this on you a little bit.
That's fine.
But this was, when I was a kid, Walter Cronkite and other media elites pushed this idea of overpopulation. And what followed was brutal treatment of women in India and China and in other parts of the world, but primarily India and China. And it's a horrible thing. And we have to stop with this idea that making babies is somehow bad.
It's simply not true. In fact, in many parts of the world, we're experiencing a birth dearth, if you will, that we have a demographic winter. There are many areas of the world where we are not at replacement level. You will have an aging population without a younger population to care for them or to provide them with Social Security benefits, retirement benefits. That is the problem facing most of the world today. So we are not overpopulated. Researchers have shown there's more than enough food to feed billions more people on Earth. We continue to revolutionize agriculture production, food production. Modern famines are not caused by too many people. They're caused by corrupt governments that prevent food resources from being able to reach people. This claim was the product of environmental alarmists from the 1960s, like people like Paul Ehrlich, who wrote the book The Population Bomb.
Yeah, and if we all live like Paul Ehrlich, then there's not enough resources.
And he was fantastically wrong. He wrote his book in the 1960s, and he predicted that there would be worldwide famines and hundreds of millions of people would die in the 1970s, that this is the beginning of the end. And he said by the year 2000, the nation of England wouldn't even exist anymore. And he was just wrong on
I think he
on
said
all
by
of that.
1989.
They bumped it to 2000.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah. And so, when you have these kinds of alarmists, people, jump forward and try to put forward these barbaric solutions that themselves create problems. You look at China and India, abortion that was used to curb so-called overpopulation. What resulted in happening was it created a gender imbalance in China. You now have a skewed population where men outnumber women by a sizable margin, so that there's large numbers of men who have no hope of finding someone to marry. And when you have large numbers of men that can't find stable careers and someone to marry, that's not a great circumstance to be in, leads to crime, can lead to terrorism. So we should rather respect the dignity of the human person and always pursue good solutions to the problems that we face in this world. One should not adopt a solution that is worse than the problem at hand.
Amen, brother. Amen. And I'll tell you this too. I was looking on NBC News about 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, had an article on overpopulation. And the photo that they chose was a photo of all 100% brown-skinned people. And I thought the underlying racism implied in the whole overpopulation movement is really what they mean is there's too many of those kind of people. It's not a problem of there's too many people like me.
Well, Ignatius Press has a wonderful book out called Target Africa that talks about neo-colonialism in Africa, where you have on the one hand liberal progressives who say we have to respect other people's cultures and we can't impose our views on them, so that missionary work is imperialistic and wrong. But on the other hand, they promote in these cultures the use of contraception and abortion. So they kind of talk out of both sides of their mouths in that respect.